Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I was raised in a family where public service is very important. So all of my adult career, I have tried to be a public servant, and this elected office is no different. We have a great team at the Circuit Clerk's office. We've accomplished many things, and one of the reasons why I want to continue in the office is because we are so close to groundbreaking events that are going to be coming through here within the next year or two that I would love to be a part of that. We have taken that office from the days of handwriting court orders to where we are trying to automate as many things as possible, and I just think that's an exciting future for our community, and I would love to be a part of it.
Kristin?
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Kristin DiCenso. I am a fourth-generation Sangamon County resident from a strong Sangamon County family. My dad taught here for 30 years. Just providing you a little background because I'm new to politics. This is my first run for office, so I'm trying to get out the information about me. I have a strong management and public service record. I've been in state government for about 10 years now. I manage a staff of 80 people and a $22 million budget, and I'm running for this office because I think I'd be good at it. I think there needs to be some changes in Sangamon County. I think there needs to be more women in Sangamon County. There's no countywide elected women in a county that's 52% women. So I just think there needs to be some changes, and I think I have some fresh ideas, and I'd like a chance to implement those.
Well, Tony's given us a stack of things that he's done since he's been in the office. What would you change? What needs to be changed about the Circuit Clerk's office?
Well, there's a few things I've already mentioned. When Tony was kind enough to give me a tour of the Circuit Clerk's office a few months ago, I got there at 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, and there were people lined up outside the office trying to get in to pay their fines. And in the age we live in, I'm a single mother. I work full-time. I have my son half the time. I think we need to make some more user-friendly changes to the Circuit Clerk's office. Maybe open a little earlier, stay open a little later, have some Saturday hours. The security guards are obviously there. They let the people in. I noticed there was a sign by court order, Circuit Clerk's office is open at 8:30. I'm not sure why that is, but other Circuit Clerk's offices across the state do have flexible hours. That's something that I think we could change. I think we could work on.
Do you have specific hours that you're looking at?
I would like to see some Saturday hours. I would like to, maybe 9 to noon. I would like to see some. This would also be a plus for the employees. Give them the opportunity to have a flexible work schedule.
Okay, and Tony, could you explain what the court order situation is, or if you think this is a good idea, a bad idea?
Well, expanding hours would be a great idea. I'm all about public service, but there's a cost attached to those things. As an example, Kristin had the idea of opening on Saturdays. We questioned the people that run the court security, and they estimated that it would be close to $80,000 just for court security personnel to open up the building on a Saturday.
That's annual cost, you mean?
That would be an annual cost. And that's not counting the payroll cost for the Circuit Clerk's office, which I imagine would probably be close to that, because you can't just have one person in a big office. You have to have support staff there and everything else. So there's a cost attached to that. And if we had tons of money, I'd be the first guy to suggest we do that. As far as the lines at 8 o'clock in the morning, people don't realize that our office is located right next door to the jury commission. Most of the people that are lined up there are waiting for the jury duty. We have somebody that clears out you have to have a starting time sometime. If we opened up at 8 o'clock, people are there at 8, we're just not open for the public at 8 because we're opening the cash drawers and getting ready for court. But let's say we opened up at 7. Well, what do you do about the people that line up at 6:30? There's always going to be a time when someone's waiting. We try to minimize that by having someone go out and clear the hallway every 10 minutes at the most. It's very rare that somebody has to wait.
Pardon my ignorance here.
Well, and I'd like to respond to that. As far as personnel goes, there doesn't have to be an increased personnel cost to that. If you offer a flexible work schedule, the state's been doing it. then you know, people could work Tuesday through Saturday, or you know, work a 4-day work week, 4 10-hour days in a row. So there doesn't have to be additional personnel cost attached to that.
And again, that's not accurate, because we have to have X amount of people there to service every counter position, every judge that's in court. We have to have people pulling the files for those court cases. Trust me, we are down 10 people compared to what we were when I first started in that office.
How many?
We know exactly how many people we need at any given time.
Yeah, how
But
many
you
are in
just-
the office? How many do you have?
There are a total of 57 full-time, 66 people, but 57 are full-time. And we were the first office in the county to offer flex time, by the way.
Pardon my ignorance on this. What fines can I pay online right now?
Well, you can plead guilty to traffic tickets, things like that. We're still waiting for, on the back side of this accomplishments, our highlight page here, it tells you all the projects are in progress.
Okay.
Such as e-file, our wayfinding system, the court triage. We are to the point where we are able to accept payments, technically, on any fine that the court levies. But we're limited to what we can do by the Supreme Court and the AOIC. That's the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts.
Can you explain that? Because I got a speeding ticket recently in Madison County, and I can plead, or I
You
can
can pay a
ask for,
speeding ticket.
I can ask for supervision and all that online.
Not here in
without
Sangamon
actually-
County.
Okay.
And that's not a function, that's not our decision.
Yeah.
We're the record keepers, we're not the decision makers.
The judges would decide.
That's
that.
correct.
Okay.
Trust me, we are in favor of court supervision, mail-in court supervision. Everybody that's ever gotten a ticket is probably in favor of that.
Yeah.
Tony, in your listed set, you say you can update, I guess, the accomplishments on your website from saved and generated more than 6.7 to 7.4 million. Can you go over that a bit, and then we'll let
Sure.
Mr. DiCenso.
And I'll give you a list here. We just updated that this morning, as a matter of fact. This number that we have on our highlights page was just updated this morning. These are actually November 11 figures, so we actually have another year to add to that now. As an example, some money was saved. We had cost savings because we eliminated 10 positions. There are other things that we've done to save money, but more importantly, there are things we have done to generate income. As an example, before I was a circuit clerk, we didn't have a passport office. That passport office has generated $538,000 so far. We had an attorney hookup
Over
system.
how many years?
I think about 10 years now.
That's profit in addition to the fees to the feds?
That's correct. That's our profit to the county
How much
that
do
we
you get
never
for
would have had.
passport?
It's gone down. I think we used to get $40. I think it's like $30 now, something like that. It's not a huge amount of money. We had a hookup system for attorneys years ago. That brought in $80,000.
Like hookup system?
Attorneys used to have to pay for online internet. Yeah, that didn't sound right, did it? Let's get hooked up at the clerk's office.
I think they're on their own.
We
What does that mean?
They would pay back then, before we had a system for everyone.
Oh.
Attorneys only could access
Okay,
that.
so that was money you collected, then now it's all free to everybody.
Right. And it's the only system we have, by the way. As an example, we created an investment program in Sangamon County that is now widely used and recommended by the Circuit Clerks Association statewide. Because of the extra effort we gave to investments, we've generated an extra $1.3 million just in income generated from that interest that we wouldn't have gotten before had we kept using the old system. So things like that.
Any thoughts on the offices being run efficiently, or?
I talk to a lot of attorneys. A lot of attorneys have come to me, and they don't think the office is being run efficiently. They have reported things such as scanning documents are an issue. They'll show up for a court date, and then a few days later they will get a notice to appear because I don't know if the document wasn't scanned in a timely manner. I don't know what the situation is there, but there seems to be bench warrants being issued after people have shown up for their court dates. That's an issue for attorneys.
Do you have any examples in hand, or just Things that people have
Just
told you.
things people have told me, yes. Different attorneys, both traffic and family court attorneys have both told me this. There's also, Tony has touted some programs as of late, this cash collection program. This was something that was generated through the comptroller's office or the treasurer's office, and he's now doing it on his website. In the past couple days, he did a press release about the collections. We're paying a collections bureau to collect unpaid traffic tickets, especially from out-of-state abusers. I think this has been going on for 12 years.
No, it's not.
Oh, well, there's also some state programs that are free to help you collect money. So I'm not really sure why we're paying a collections bureau if we can do this for free.
What programs are out there for free that we're not using?
There are some collections services through the state of Illinois,
What are
either
they?
at the comptroller's office or the treasurer's office.
Okay, we have not been approved for that yet. As a matter of fact, we are just now completing an agreement with the comptroller's office to let them help us collect funds. That's not been allowed before. It's been allowed at the municipalities,
Yes, it has.
but not for the circuit clerk's office.
The city uses it, for instance.
Yeah, but that's different than the circuit clerk's office. We're the judiciary. It's not the same thing. You can check with the comptroller's office.
On the level of staffing to the challenger in the race, the same number of people you expect would work there, and also what about the politics? There must be a fear that you're a Democrat, he's a Republican, that there might be wholesale changes in personnel. What are your thoughts about that?
I think going in and cleaning house and losing institutional knowledge is ridiculous. If I was elected, would I go in and have my top people? Absolutely, that's what you do. You get your people into those jobs that can help you do the best job. But as far as the rank and file frontline workers, I need them. They know this office inside and out. I don't. I'm not pretending to. But there would be a performance review, a performance evaluation of the office. What needs to be done? What can be cut? There was a Maximus study a few years back. So that's going into any office, and I did that when I went into the Department of Natural Resources in 2003. I had to go in and look at the programs there and see what needed to go, see what needed to stay, and move staff around accordingly if that was possible. We had unions at the state, so you couldn't just move people from job to job to job. It had to make sense and it had to fit.
Yeah, and when you mentioned the 80 employees or the $80 million budget, that was at DNR, right?
$22 million budget,
And
80 employees, correct.
Now, you oversee a certain number of people at IDOT?
No, I don't manage anybody at IDOT.
Okay, we'll get back to IDOT.
Okay.
But as far as staffing, is it fair to question if the office is mostly Republican because you're a Republican, or how have you dealt with that situation?
Well, the best way to judge that would be what were my actions when I took over the office. I never fired anybody because of...
Of course, you came after operator.
Well, that might be true, but I can't help that. But my point is I didn't bring anybody with me. I didn't fire anybody that wasn't on my team. As a matter of fact, I knew very few of the people up there.
But he had already been the auditor for 4 years before that.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't fire anybody there either, or bring anybody with me.
When I took a tour of the office, he was sure to point out a Democrat to me. He said, "This is the professor, and he's a Democrat." So I do have Democrats in the office.
Well, there are several Democrats in the office.
So, Kristin, if there's 57 full-time equivalent in that office, I mean, how many people do you figure you're going to bring in when you come?
There's 5 or 6 top managers. And I know one has left as of late, Mark Kinnaman. So there seems to be an opening there.
He went to work for the comptroller's program for circuit clerks, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely.
The one that they're just now starting.
Yes.
Would that be the collections program?
Yes.
So, I'm looking at 4 or 5 jobs.
How many of those would be women?
How many of those would be women? Probably a fair number. And diversity as well. It seems to be lacking in that office, and that's a big issue with me. I think that any office in this city, county, state should be reflective of the population.
Tony, do you know numbers you want to talk about? Diversity
Women, as an example, probably make up 80% of our employees in the office. Management, they're probably the majority. I mean, we have veterans, we have disabled veterans, we have various ethnic minorities represented there. Our problem is people aren't leaving. I mean, many of the people that are there today were there long before I got there. So I guess that's a good thing, because when I first started there, we had a high turnover of about 30% a year, employee turnover. We hired a couple people recently. It's probably the first time in a year we've been able to hire somebody, because we've just not had any movement. So we're happy. People must be happy there.
So, Kristin, I mean, Tony's he's running for his 5th term here, am I right?
Correct.
I mean, what's the overall case here? I mean, there's not been major scandals in this office.
There haven't?
I mean, well, you talk about it.
I mean, just in the past few weeks, there's been major scandals that have been.
I mean, he was saying that was the previous guy, right?
No, he said 4 to 5 years under his tenure, and it took him 4 to 5 years to find 3 or 4 employees. I didn't have any of those scandals in the 10 years I was at, over 9 years I was at
Well, what was the
DNR.
scandal?
You said it, Tony. You said that people were fixing
I said we
tickets.
found people doing inappropriate things, some of them doing illegal things.
Yes.
Every one of them were fired. What is the scandal?
Why weren't they prosecuted? That's not a scandal?
We tried to prosecute some, and I believe one of the 4 people that I'm thinking of, again, this was 16 years ago, was prosecuted. But do you realize it's difficult? We're not cops. We're clerks.
You work with the sheriff's office. You made a claim that big bags of cocaine would go up to the courtroom and small bags of cocaine would come back down.
We suspected an individual of doing that, but catching people doing things, again, we're not cops. We weren't able to specifically catch people. We suspected things, and in some cases for months we would set up programs to try to catch people, but that was long before we had automated systems. But every one of these people were fired.
Well, just as recently as December.
And another thing you keep saying, why don't you tell us their names? Well, I can't tell you the names of employees we've fired. I'd be sued by every attorney out there.
It's public record.
No, it's not.
Beside the point.
No, that is the point.
As recently as December of 2011, you went on Sam Madonia's show and said that you caught someone stealing. I mean, you're automated. There's audio of that. So, we didn't hear about it in the paper or anywhere else. We heard about it on that show.
Did you ever fire anybody while you were your last job?
I have never fired anybody. That wasn't.
Well, I don't know if that's a good thing, but my point is,
in state government, I don't have the authority to fire anybody.
I guarantee you this building, this business, and every other business out here has fired people. I don't remember any of them calling a news conference to say, by the way, we fired somebody today. That's not what you do in personnel.
No, but
Now, I don't think I heard the Sam Madoni show where you realized that somebody was stealing.
I don't remember what that was.
Somebody was stealing, and what happened to that person?
I don't know which one she's talking about.
it was.
It
was December of 2011. I can forward you all the audio if you would like.
Yeah, well, fine. I mean, I'll stand by everything I said.
What happened with that case? Was that when you also referred to any agency?
Well, and again, we suspect then it was a particular court case where a bag of cocaine was opened in court.
Just last year?
No, these were all
when you were
my first term. That's what I mean. It's not anything
new. Was there
new.
just one person with cocaine, or were there more than one person?
No, just one we suspected of cocaine.
But you never caught the person? You suspected
we never
caught
caught them red-handed, but we had long suspected something was going on. So here's the dilemma. Do you do your best to fire somebody for any reason that's legitimate, or do you continue trying because you suspect something? It might take a year before you were able to catch something like that. But not only that case, there was a case where someone was clearing speeding tickets. We found that person, but we couldn't catch them in the act because we didn't have automated trails back then. We just didn't have that kind of computer system to work with.
That's one of the people that's not the woman that was prosecuted, right?
No, that was a different one.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, every one of these, there is no scandal. Every person that we caught or suspected doing wrong was fired as they should have been fired. We just didn't make a big news release out of it, didn't make any fanfare out of it. And that's what her complaint is. I didn't notify the public that we fired people.
Yeah, but
No, you
Sorry.
didn't notify the public that that this was going on until
Why would we?
2012. Why
People-
wouldn't you? I mean, I have an article right here back from the year 2000 when people were selling political tickets in your office. Managers
And
were
those
selling.
people were reprimanded for that.
There seems to be a pattern here.
Yeah, 14 years ago, 16 years ago, 11 years ago, okay.
Yeah,
That's a
that-
fact.
that is
What
a
have we
pattern.
done, what have we done in the last few years that is so, so terrible?
Well, as I said, as of 2011, December of 2011, you referenced someone that you had just caught stealing.
I don't know what you're talking about there.
Okay.
But
well,
you believe you're just, I mean, I don't know what it says. You're saying you think that was the cocaine person?
I don't know. I don't know what this is.
And I guess the question is, if somebody is fixing tickets or taking stuff, that would be like official misconduct.
That would, you
ended up
bet.
only one charge for one person fixing one ticket. And she pleaded guilty to something.
That was
And the
one we were
rest-
able to, well, again, back in those days, before we had automation, we have thousands, hundreds of thousands of files. If you were to take one file and misplace it, we would never know that unless we did a fine filing, which takes weeks to go through every file, make sure everything's in order. There were all kinds of ways that people, can do things that they're not supposed to do. Again, we're not cops. We have to, we have to figure these things out. Had we not taken action, then I'd be everything my opponent says I am. But in every case, we found it. And she can't document anything going on, currently that's a scandal.
this is
And
your.
this
I guess
is
that's the
nothing more
point I'm
than
trying to get to.
political rhetoric.
What's the case for firing him, for the voters firing him? What is the case overall? Is it this stuff from?
There's
15?
several cases.
Okay. What are they?
You're not going to have to pay me to drive to work every day.
Okay.
Currently, my opponent receives $7,200 a year to drive from New Berlin to the county building right here. $300 per pay. It took us 3 FOIA requests to get that information, and not in a timely manner.
Wait a minute, was it in time?
No, it wasn't.
In the time that
It
the
took
law
us
specifies?
No, it was not.
That is not accurate at all.
That is
We have
absolutely
never
accurate.
been late for a FOIA.
Okay, well, I understand only the coroner and you get, of the countywide elected officials, get driving allowance and mileage allowance.
Well, some people
He
get
gets mileage
vehicles.
plus he gets
A car
50 cents per
allowance?
mile plus a car allowance.
That is not true.
Okay.
I have the documentation
Well,
for
let's see
that.
it.
Absolutely. And he also gets a cell phone allowance, which in our FOIA was denied. They said that he didn't receive a cell phone allowance.
No, your particular FOIA said, and
Right
you
here
should
you
have a
can
copy
see.
of it, I would assume.
Yeah, of course I do.
Well, it-
There's his
Where's your
mileage
request that says that?
reimbursement. And after the 2008 election, he started receiving $300 per pay for a car allowance.
And there's a reason for all of that. I do not get mileage and a car allowance, and I don't know where you're getting that. We have never been late with a FOIA request. Everything is timely or filed in a timely manner. It's just that when you ask for documents that go back to 1996, it takes time to go through those paper files.
We're still waiting on a FOIA from September 11th
September, what FOIA would that be?
regarding the JANO Systems contract.
You got all that a week ago.
No, we did not.
Well, we can show you everything we've
Are
mailed
you
out.
your own FOIA officer? or
No,
does it go
we
through the
have
auditor's
people that do
office?
that.
They have
No,
two people
we have
on
our
staff.
own in our office.
Okay.
Well, review what you get for a car and mileage and all that. I mean, this,
Sure.
what comes with the office?
I do not get a cell phone. I get money to help pay for a cell phone. And then I do get a car allowance because I have a truck that we use to take files to our off-site locations. We used to rent trucks every year. We don't rent trucks anymore.
How often do you take files to the off-site location?
Every week.
And you're doing that personally?
Sure.
So where's the off-site
I'm not the
location?
only guy. We have several locations. We have some out south end of town and some in the north end of town by the airport.
So
And then we have
that's $7,000 a year because you use your truck to move
72.
files?
it's cheaper than renting trucks and things like that, because don't forget, sometimes we're moving huge amounts of files. Every year we move huge amounts of files.
So you said you're
But I'm not the only one that gets a car. There are several people in the county that get that.
Well, as far as I understand from Palazzolo, the only two countywide elected officers that get car allowance are you and the coroner.
Well, I know the sheriff gets a vehicle, the county clerk gets a vehicle. Those are all paid for.
Joe gets a vehicle?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and
I will also, answering your question, I'll also be a full-time circuit clerk. This will be my only job. I don't own any other businesses. I don't aspire to be the head of my party. I will make that pledge. I will take that vow. This will be my only job. I will work it full-time, which I don't think my opponent does. I'll be there 5 days a week with my staff.
And I take it, since you're making the points about cell phones and cars and whatnot, you're not going to take any money for any of that? No, you're not going to have the county buy you a car or a cell phone or anything like that?
Nope.
How are you going to move files?
Oh, yeah.
We can you can rent a zip car by the hour now. I mean, I'm certain it's less than $7,200 a year.
Are you a full-time circuit clerk?
yes, I am.
Are you there every day?
I am, yes. And again, it's easy to throw out these wild accusations, but I've
These
not
are not
seen
wild
any.
accusations.
Well, I haven't seen any proof about any of these things you've been talking about.
Yeah, well, you just kind of accused him of not being at work all the time.
Well,
Yes.
that's a good example. Yeah.
Yes.
How do we know this?
I've had several of his staff tell me that he doesn't come to work on Wednesdays. That's designated as a day that he takes off with his family.
Is that correct?
Well, partially correct. I take my daughter to school on Wednesday morning. I come in late on Wednesday. Wednesday is the one day of the week where we try to limit appointments because we have so many that run over from their original schedule. That way we can put everything on Wednesday. We know that's an open day. It doesn't mean I don't go to work.
Oh, so what time do you usually get? Is it usually by 11-ish?
Oh, before that.
Okay.
And don't forget, this job requires you to be gone at night. It requires you to be gone on weekends. We're always doing things in the public.
You talking about the political side or the
No,
or
the
side?
office side. We do more outreach programs and perhaps.
Like what kind of stuff does the circuit? I've never seen a circuit clerk show. I mean, what are you talking about?
Well, we as an example, we do expungement seminars. Do you know what I'm talking about? What an expungement is?
Yeah, I mean, do you teach that yourself?
Well, I'm always there. I teach some things.
How often is that?
We've done two just in the last few weeks. We've done landlord-tenant seminars in the evening. We've done make a will programs for seniors. We
So
do all this kind of
Are you
thing.
averaging 40 hours a week, you think?
Well, I'm averaging more than that.
You would do these seminars too?
Absolutely, of course. I average more than 40 hours a week now. And I can get my son to school at the
Both
time
of
to
you
get
have
to work at 8
somewhat
o'clock.
political backgrounds, and I think I should ask a little about that, because Ms. DiCenso, you worked, I guess it was the Democratic Party when you were trying to get that famous governor elected, who is now
Yes.
somewhere else, Mr. Blagojevich.
Yes.
And then you got on with the state, and now you're in your second job, which happened to come along at a time when it allows you to run for this office, because
Right.
your other job didn't, because of federal funds. Aren't you pretty much a political person, despite the fact you say you never ran for anything?
Well, I think behind-the-scenes political person would be a more accurate description. Yes, I worked on political campaigns. I worked for the Democratic County Chairman's Association for the Blagojevich campaign. I volunteered on the Davlin campaign. So yes, I have been involved in politics.
And when you say from the Blagojevich campaign, you mean through the Chairman's Association?
I was paid through the Chairman's Association. Yes. As far as my job goes, I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. I interviewed for this job in August of 2010. And Ann Schneider, who is now the Secretary of IDOT, has been a mentor to me. We got to know each other very well at DNR. And when she was sworn in as Secretary of IDOT on November 28th, 29th, she said, I want you to come over with me. I want you to be on my team. And she got it done. So the timing of that really shouldn't be that questionable. She wasn't in the position to get me out there until November of 2011, and I was fortunate enough to be able to start there on February of 2012.
What kind of contributions have you made to the governor's campaign? Have you made any?
None. They don't accept it.
From employees. And Tony, you of course were Republican County Chairman for a fair amount of time. And then some of your party said it was time for a change, which you came around to agree with. Doesn't the fact that there was so much consternation within the Republican Party, does that reflect at all on the job you do in this office, or should it?
Not at all. From day one, even my detractors in the party said that they thought I was doing a great job, and they fully supported me for this position of circuit clerk. And again, most of that was inside baseball things. We are all friends in the party. We all get along. We came to an amiable conclusion, and everybody's happy.
You remain a precinct committeeman?
Yeah, sure.
Tony, you're running for your 5th term. What are you going to do in the next term? Why do you need a 5th term? It seems like, I mean, you talk about public service, but
Sure.
other people would say he's just a career politician.
Well, and I would, you know what, I would agree with him had we not been moving forward. You know, you always hear the term, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Yes, we are better off now. As a matter of fact, every year gets better in the circuit clerk's office, not just because of me, but because of a great staff. We work together. We have an enduring theme of trying to make every day better in every way. As an example, in the packet that I've handed out earlier, we have a list of projects in progress. These are some of the things that we hope to get done. Some of these will be done this year, by the way. But there's a lot. We are very close to being one of the first paperless courts in Illinois. Again, we are capable of doing so much more than what the court will allow us to do. We're capable of doing e-filing, as an example, where where attorneys don't have to leave their office. They can send us their documentation over the internet. We're capable of doing that now, but the law won't let us do that.
Just about paperless, it always scares me for non-computer literate people.
All right.
What happens to your poor folks or your elderly folks who don't like computers? Would they, under this paperless, still be able to fill things out and sign them?
Sure. What happens when you bring, and she had made I'm sorry, I don't mean to refer to you as she. Kristin said earlier that a file got screwed up because it was scanned improperly. Well, that wouldn't hold up a file from going to court, by the way. What we do, every piece of paper that comes in our office gets scanned. And then, so once it's scanned, that paper is secured because we have to have a paper backup for X amount of years, depending on the type of file. Then it's microfilm, so we have a redundancy there. But every piece of paper that you bring in is scanned, and we're able to bring it up on the computer. We're able to do these things now. So when you go to court, you might have this in your hand, but the judge is capable of having this on his computer.
Okay, what about?
So that's the only difference.
Are things being? Is there have you heard of this problem that was brought up by your opponent about people being called to court even though something was dismissed already, or they shouldn't be called to court?
You asked the right question. Give me an example, and I'm sure we do millions of documents a year, millions of entries, I should say. Yes, it's not hard to believe that we make a mistake or two. I mean, we're human beings. But that percentage is negligible when you consider the millions of entries and the hundreds of thousands of documents that we work with every year. And don't forget, sometimes a judge will keep a file. He might order something to be done, and in a rare case might want to review that case and not get it to us for a couple of days. I'm not saying that happens a lot, but it could be any one of a number of things. But for the most part, let's say we have, a very small number of, every office has mistakes. I'm sure we do. To say that you don't have mistakes or that you won't have mistakes is not reality. The reality is who's reducing those chances for mistakes to happen in the first place, and what measures have you taken to keep mistakes from happening again. And like I say, we have a long history of correcting things like that. And the more automated we get, the less chance of errors there is.
Kristin, what would you do with the office that he's not doing? I know we talked a little bit about flexible hours opening on Saturday, but what are the other ideas that you have?
He's touched on some of them. Fillable forms is something that I've heard from attorneys. They would like to be able to have the capability to go, and the general public, to go in and fill out or fill in forms online. That should be something that's simple to do.
We have that, but
on some things. We had a question yesterday about pro se representation. We were at a forum together yesterday, and I think that would be a great topic for seminars. As people are representing themselves more, a lot of online divorces, or more people have the capability of doing things online, but they're confused about how to come in and file things. So maybe if we could simplify that process for them, that would be very helpful. Like I said, I would have to go in there and see exactly what is being done that I could improve on. I was over all the IT at the Department of Natural Resources, which means that I was over all the hunting and fishing licenses for the state, all the snowmobile and boat registrations for the state. We took those online and we took those over the counter, which had never been done before. So the revenue we generated, from the sale of those licenses over the counter and online went through the roof. We got to a percentage of 75%, 85% of people buying their licenses online. From this started in 2005. So I think there's always room for automation. I would hope that everyone's cross-trained. This came up yesterday, and this fits into the hours too. If we were to have Saturday hours in this office, 2 people should be able to, man a counter efficiently if everyone knows how to do the same job.
Is 2 people enough?
No, there's no way.
How many people do you consider minimum staff?
Well, we have different types of files. Don't forget, in some days, we average probably close to 1,000, on an average day in our office, 800 to 1,000 people a day. Imagine what it would be on a Saturday if you didn't have to take off work. Now, granted, it's probably going to be smaller because the attorneys aren't going to come in, but that's still a huge number of people, and you have to staff for the eventuality that you're going to have a huge crowd. But if I may get back to one thing, all of the forms on our website are fillable that the courts will allow us to be fillable, okay? And every form we have is online with the exception of the multi-part forms, which the judges will not approve us putting online.
Do you know why that is, by the way?
Well, a multi-part form might require a signature on every page, and that way you can verify that they've been signed. You can't do that on, if it's a photocopier, basically.
How do you convince the judges to move forward on some of this stuff? It seems like seems like the reason that you've thrown up to kind of say, well, that's why we're not doing that.
Well, when I say the judges, I don't necessarily mean the judges here.
Right.
I mean the Supreme Court.
The administrative court.
Right, or the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts.
Yeah.
Because to many of them, much like Mr. Schoenberg said earlier, I'm not a computer literate guy, so they're in some cases they don't know the quality of the electronic or the electrons that we're storing. Some of them might not know. Some of them, they are concerned about having a document last for 100 years. Because if you've committed someone to prison for life, and it happens to be a young person, you have to be able to back up that decision with your evidence, with your paperwork, for as long as that person could be possibly in jail. Some of these people are in jail 70 years, 80 years. So we have to keep all that stuff, and they want to ensure that our job is nothing more than being the record keepers for the court system. And they want to make sure that we're able to do that. So that's what the reluctance is. They're just not sure that some of these things are worthy of attention yet.
How do you further that along?
Right. Are you doing anything to convince them? Is there an association of circuit clerks that says, hey, boys, let's
There is indeed.
Let's move the ball along here.
And they have progressed quite a ways. As a matter of fact, we're talking about e-file now. E-file is acceptable in the federal system, but it's not accepted in the circuit court system. There are 3 counties that I know of that are being used as a beta site right now, a small, medium, and a large county. We're usually beta sites. They trade us off, the counties of various sizes. But there are some counties now that the court's allowing as a beta site to accept e-files.
You mean like a trial?
A trial base, yes. That's a technical term, beta.
Yeah,
So.
please.
So we are moving ahead. But just something as simple as you would think, as simple as an e-signature, a judge's signature on a court document. If he's looking at the paperwork on the computer and he wants to enter a judgment, we can get it to where he just touches the screen and it prints out the specific paragraphs he wants included in that order.
Yeah.
The bugaboo, if you will, is him signing that electronic document. So we are trying to get, this is a big deal. He has to unlock the signature. This is what we're going for. He has to unlock the signature, push the button where it's electronically transferred to that document. And right now the court won't let us do that. That's one of the things holding up a lot of this paperwork, is just that kind of issue, which to most people is a small deal, but to the courts, that's a big deal.
Do you want to respond to anything that you said there?
I'm a fighter, and I'm all for changing policy that needs to be changed. So if this is the big holdup, if this is the big sticking point, I don't understand why this Association of Circuit Clerks doesn't push harder. If it's going to improve efficiency, cut costs, then I don't understand what the holdup is.
Can we go back to the makeup of the workforce? Because we aren't in the office, okay? Kristin, you said you would hire women for diversity if you had openings, and Tony, you said 80% are women. Are there any is there any diversity in the office? I
Sure.
mean, where's this? You know, I didn't expect to hear 80% were women based on the conversation.
And that's a ballpark, but I'm sure that's pretty close to being accurate.
You know, about minority representation?
Percentages, the last time we checked, we were very close to the city average, or the county average, I should say. Off the top of my head, I don't remember, but we encourage applicants of every walk of life to apply there, and they're all given consideration. But like I said, we haven't had a lot of turnover. But I think you'll find that if you look at our staff, it does reflect much of what Springfield looks like.
So, Kristin, how would you improve that? What is your concern?
I would like to get up to 30% diversity in that office. I think we all know that Springfield and Sangamon County has had a problem with diversity.
When you say diversity, you mean like minority
Absolutely,
people?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So just non-white?
Yes.
Okay. You don't know what the percentage is now?
It's not 30%, I'll tell you that. But I don't think Springfield is 30%. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think Springfield was like 18 or something.
Yes.
And Kristin, how would you do this by attrition, or would you clear some folks away?
I don't know how many people are close to retiring. I don't know, I don't know those, we don't have access to those specifics. So, again, I'd have to go in and take a look at the workforce. I'd have to take a look at the applicants. I'd have to, if there's no job openings, then, I'm not creating jobs.
Is there no kind of office-by-office record of this kind of thing? I know, like, the city of Chicago and what.
Well, I'm sure there's records of that, sure.
All right, we've hit our 40 minutes. Anybody else have any questions that we didn't ask? Or?
I'm just fascinated by that I thought legal aid was free everywhere.
Meaning what, sir?
Well,
The Legal Assistance Foundation, perhaps?
yeah.
Well, that's a group of attorneys that volunteer time. Yes, we have that organization here, but we've gone a step beyond that. We actually have a system, a computer system that you can sit down in our lobby if you don't understand the legal system. I'm glad you brought that up. Where you can sit down, and it actually has a Q&A program there, and it will guide you step by step on filing small claim suits, as an example, getting a divorce without an attorney. It does those types of things. And in addition to that, we also have a browse aloud system. We were the first circuit clerk's office in the state to have that as well. It helps people with the visual impairment, people whose language, English is their second language. So on that same computer, we have a program that works with those people too. The program is so successful that Jesse White's now added that to his system. So we were the first political entity to have that, and he's now the second, so we're proud of that. But to get back to your question, sir, yes, we do have that service there.
But that access has always been free, correct?
Well, we've not always had this program. That is just the last couple of years.
But the access itself has always been free?
Oh, sure. Now, we're not allowed to answer questions. We can't even theoretically tell you what to put in the blanks on the forms that we provide you. But there is assistance out there, yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Tony, can you explain to me why you brought up these past incidents of wrongdoing so late after the fact and insinuated your predecessors somehow? It just seems so out of context, and I'm trying to understand what purpose you serve.
Well, I believe that is out of context. Bernie and I were at a get-together where I was making a speech, and I had said that we had improved our office too. that when I took over, there was some problems that we had discovered, and I'm talking about these individuals. And that's how that came up. And he said, well, be specific. And I said, Bernie, we actually had some things like this going on. And I said, but we fixed all of those problems during my first term, and didn't think much about it after that, quite frankly.
I see. It was in response to a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may answer. No, it was a luncheon, and you said that.
The network luncheon.
Yeah, the Republican Network, and he complimented the coroner on, because her office had something like a laughing stock or whatever, and he said it was something involving people were snickering at it or something, and.
Well, I said she improved the office.
Yeah, well, you said there was something about whatever, and just like when I took over, people were saying bad things about my office, and we fixed it up. And so in the hallway after that, I just said, "What are you talking about?" And brought up, you mentioned the word gangs, and I kept asking questions, and then I called the judges and the state's attorneys about what happened back then, if they remembered any of this. And I did find the one case that there was a prosecution, and then. I think
my opponent doesn't give me credit for that. She said the state's attorney doesn't remember anything, the sheriff's department doesn't remember anything, but you just said there was a prosecution.
There was one case that...
We were able, that's the individual we caught red-handed, so we were able to prosecute that one.
One case. I mean, there were lots of shenanigans, it sounds like, going on. I did submit a letter to State's Attorney John Milheiser and ask him to follow up on these allegations. He forwarded my letter to Sheriff Neil Williamson. I haven't heard anything since then.
Again, there's nothing to follow up on. Everybody was terminated as they should have been years ago. This is just political rhetoric for my opponent to use. As a matter of fact...
These are your words. This is what you brought up. This isn't anything I dredged up out of anywhere.
But I completed the sentence by saying every one of these people were terminated as they should have been. You are the one that has every commercial you have done, this is all you've talked about. You have yet to talk about one thing you're going to do when you get in this office.
I have talked about several things today that I was going to do.
Well, you haven't put them in any of your radio ads or newspaper ads. It's always
what a bad guy
Libri is.
Well, if we're going to talk about advertising, then we should probably talk about fundraising and contributions and how your biggest contributor, your two itemized contributors in this last reporting period were from Jano Systems, from the owner of Jano Systems and from Jano Systems in particular. This is the database that holds the court
Are you
documents.
suggesting that I'm giving them some kind of favor because they're...
Well, we don't know because we can't get the contracts. We can't get any information about it. So
we've given you everything you've asked for in the time frame that the law says.
This is why our two past governors are in prison, because of this kind of politics. You take money from your staff. You take money from your vendors. It's so highly unethical. And
you say I take money...
No, I've said that.
Well,
I said that.
I think you need to have a conversation with her and ask her to provide all this proof of all these terrible things going on.
You can get on the State Board of Elections website right now and see what your contributions are.
Well, just because someone donated to my campaign doesn't mean they're bad people or they're getting some kind of political favor. You mentioned yourself...
They're getting work from you, totaling about $170,000 a year.
Jano has been there since my predecessor had the foresight to get to hire them. They have been there 20-some years. I did not hire these people. They've been there. They do a fantastic job for us. We are one of the most technologically advanced circuit clerk's offices in the state of Illinois. We have a good relationship with them.
That's not what other circuit clerk's offices say.
Well, again, you say these generalized things. Be specific if you're going to throw these things out, because that's politics.
I'm being specific in what I'm
well, which specific circuit clerks have said that?
Well, they don't want to be named, but there's two I've visited with, and this isn't about them. This is about you, and this is about the contributions you take.
And all I'm saying is that if you're going to make an accusation, that you be able to back it up, because it's nothing more than hearsay, and that is typical political rhetoric.
You can shift this all you want, but the fact of the matter is you take money from staff and you take money from vendors.
If someone in my staff wants to write a check, they can. Ask them, what is the average check that someone would have written me? Using the numbers that you were quoted in the paper, that means the average staff member would have given me about $8 a year.
Yeah, well, some of them give you,
and some don't give me any.
Exactly.
Understood.
Regardless.
Well, just a quick question. Who's the owner of Jano Systems?
Vasco Bridges.
And this is the company that does your website? Is that what it is?
He does our database, our computer system.
Computer system, okay.
And he's been there for 20
Given everything that's happened, I mean, you've been around politics for a long time, Tony, why do you take money from your employees and your vendors, given what has happened in Illinois?
Are they not able to take part in the political system? It's not that they get they don't get to keep a job or keep from losing their job because they donate to me. That's ridiculous.
That's not an answer.
Well, I haven't completed my answer yet. My point is, what is wrong with them saying, hey, I like what you're doing here. I want to be a part of that. I don't understand why that's a
That
negative
doesn't create a
thing.
level playing field.
How much is the contract with them worth? Like, how much money do they get from the office?
It depends. We don't have contracts with them anymore. We actually.
They
the
just buy
system-
modules.
We buy as they're created or as the
Yeah,
law
but I mean,
changes.
how much money is being given to them each year, if you had the guess?
About $200,000.
That's not correct. I mean, we have records of all that. Depending
to
on
see
what the
them.
Is it
module
more
is.
than 50?
Yes.
In some cases, it would be. Some
I mean,
cases,
that's-
it's not.
The state, the governor cannot take money from anybody that contributes more than X number. I think it's $50,000. That's
Oh,
what I
that
brought
has a
it.
contract of 50.
That has a contract, yeah, right. So,
And
I
doesn't
mean-
take money from employees.
Well, that too, but, I mean, do you think that that should apply to local officials too? I mean, I wrote stories about our late mayor doing the same thing. I mean, this seems to be a problem, or is it not a problem?
Well, it's a problem if you can prove that something, inappropriate is going on. But again, my average employee probably doesn't donate.
Yeah. Well, what about, and vendors, you feel the same way? Because this
Well, not
doesn't
every
appear-
vendor donates either.
I know, well, if you have a big vendor that's spending 50,000 or getting 50,000 a year from the office and they're giving you money, doesn't that look bad?
I don't think so. I mean, if it was somebody that I perhaps had brought on, that would be different. But by the way, we don't give him $50,000 every year.
And what is the amount of their contribution to you this time? I'm sorry, maybe you said it and I don't.
In this
I think it
last
was
reporting period?
$1,000 this last reporting period.
Yes.
How much was it?
$1,000. And in this last reporting period, that was a fourth of what he raised.
I've only had one fundraiser this year. My opponent's had how many? 8, 9?
I have never run for political office. I haven't been in office for 20 years. So yes,
how many fundraisers?
I would have to have a lot of fundraisers to raise
Well,
money.
My point is, maybe this one, they gave me more than they usually do because it's the only fundraiser I've had this year. I've not had 8 fundraisers or 10 fundraisers.
I've probably had 15.
And again, if nothing inappropriate is going on, I don't understand the problem. I mean,
But Tony,
I imagine every elected official, not every elected official, but I imagine most of them in the county, the city, have vendors that donate to them.
I wouldn't do that.
Tony, given the atmosphere of Illinois
Uh-huh.
and the impropriety historically that has tended to go on in politics in the state of Illinois, you're not at all concerned about the appearance, whether or not anything's going on inappropriately, you're not at all concerned about the appearance of having your employees contribute and having vendors contribute.
No, I'm not. Again, I think they should be allowed to participate in the political process like anybody else. Again,
There are other ways to
most of
participate in
them
the
don't
political
contribute, so I
process.
don't, that would prove, I would think, that I'm not retaliating against people for not giving money.
There were also some questionable on his report, his filings that came through this week, that there were circuit clerk's office, the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's office was paid from his campaign fund for food and beverages for volunteers. So I'm just concerned that maybe he's running his
What was
campaign
that
out of his
again?
office. Well, I can pull it up for you right here.
Yeah, I mean, I buy pizzas for the office. The office
From your
will-
campaign fund?
Well, sure. They're good employees.
That's,
Sometimes, if they deliver pizza, the guy will pay cash, and then I'll just write him a check for whatever it was, but that's for
out of your
everybody.
campaign fund?
Yeah, it's not like we don't use county funds, we use my campaign fund. I'm just trying to,
Well, I'll check that, Kristen, but why would that be bad if you...
Yeah, why is- I don't understand it.
Non-taxpayer funds to reward his employees.
if we
Well,
hit a
I-
milestone of so many files filed, I buy
Well,
everybody
because
pizza.
it says food for volunteers paid to the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's office.
So is it volunteers or is that just your office workers?
Well, I don't know what that
It
is.
says it a few times. I can show you right here if you'd like. It's on page 3 and 4 of his itemized expenditure filing, Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's office, expenditure, food for volunteers. Volunteers for what? I mean, if he does these weekend
It's-
workshops, office tea and coffee, food for volunteers, to the Sangamon
Well,
County Circuit Clerk's office.
When we go do it's not my political volunteers. When we have an after-hours program, I'll buy people dinner, I'll buy them snacks or something, or I'll buy juice to have available at the library when we do a seminar. That's what that is. I'm just trying to be a nice
I
guy.
think you should keep your political funds out of your county business.
Well, I've saved the taxpayers money by not having them pay for it. I mean, because this was an official sanctioned business.
As a boss, when I buy my employees in the past, when I would buy them something, take them to lunch, I paid for it out of my own pocket. That's what most people do.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.